Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr here today. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be creating 3 adorable gnome themed cards using new dies and stamps from the Simon Says Stamp Make Merry 2020 release. This is the October 2020 release and it is amazing. We will be using 4 brand new products, 5 if you count the coordinating dies that go with the stamp set that we're going to use today. In addition to the new products, we're also going to be incorporating some of the past gnomes from Simon Says Stamp's collection because why not? I really wanted to show how well they work together. Real quick, I'm going to kind of show you how I laid things out while I was planning and the products I'm going to use. This is the All Snowflakes Background, the Good Cheer stamp set and coordinating dies. I love this big stamp set. It's a 6x8 stamp set, has dies. And then the Deco Hat Gnome and Mushroom House. I am thrilled that Simon came out with a mushroom house to go with all their adorable gnomes. I have pre-prepped my All Snowflakes background in the MISTI. I've removed the foam pad from the MISTI, placed this in here, and then I'm stamping this on some Nina 110-pound weight smooth white cardstock. The first color of ink I'm using is Lake Shores. While I had the All Snowflakes background in my MISTI, I went ahead and stamped multiple backgrounds, which led to me creating multiple cards with this set since I already had this out and was already stamping the backgrounds. The first one didn't stamp great the first time. I hadn't really used the stamp before and the ink was a little light, so I stamped it more than once with that Lake Shore Simon Says Stamp ink. This ink is even harder to see. This is the Fawn Ballet Slippers ink, which is going to give us a beautiful light pink background. And I can't wait to show you this one. There's still a few faint areas here, so I am going to ink it up and stamp this one again. By the time I get to the third background, my cards or my stamp is so well prepped. I only stamped it once, and it could be the ink, it could be that I've used the stamp. It's hard to tell. We are going to go with kind of a pinky red, which I really like for the holiday season. I have been using the Simon Says Stamp watermelon ink a lot. I don't know what it is. I've had this ink for a while, but I've kind of just been revisiting it a lot lately. And so we're going to go ahead and stamp our final panel with this. Now remember, you can always go ahead and stamp many more if you want to. It's completely up to you while you have that out. I actually had a couple extras because I stamped a few more. I'm going to hold on to those and use them for other cards later on. I love creating all these backgrounds. It's almost like you have your own pattern paper now, like a snowflake pattern paper, like little pad or whatever it might be, and you can just simply grab and go and create a card. Look how beautiful and detailed that background is. So amazing, you guys. I absolutely adore this set. Look at all those background or the stamp. All those backgrounds together are beautiful. Now, I did do my die cutting off camera to save some time. You might be thinking, really? Because this is a long video, but if you break it down by card, that's only about 10 minutes per card, and I'm creating 3 today, and they are not the same. Yes, the backgrounds are all the same, but I'm using some different dies with each. So while the backgrounds stay the same and I'm using the same greeting stamp set, they're not the same. I did add some texture to my mushroom house with E40 and E43 Copic markers. This is something I do a lot with mushroom houses, whether it's a stamp or a die. I really like that texture. I'm not going to be adding tons of Copic coloring to everything today like I sometimes do. I don't really feel like the dies need it. This first card definitely got more of that than the others. I did add some lipstick red Simon Says Stamp ink to the top of the mushroom house, and then the underside, which is die cut from Lawn Fawn paper bag cardstock, is going to get a little dark chocolate inking to it. This card had probably the most shading of all, and that's because it just had some bigger areas. For the most part, the gnomes, their outfits are pretty small and things, and so I don't really add a ton of shading to the rest of it. I will add a little stamping detail, which we'll talk about when we get to our next card. Then I want to kind of lay everything out before I start assembling and gluing down. I know I want to glue the house down first, but I need to make sure that I get my spacing correct. So I laid it out. I took my stamp I'm going to use for the sentiment. I made sure I left enough room at the bottom, and we're going to start assembling. One of the things about the assembly, and I have sped this up a lot, you guys, just to save time, because it is a lot of little parts and pieces. If you guys have followed me, you know that I love that. It definitely can be a little labor of love, but I am saving a lot of the pieces. It's one die. The mushroom house is one die, so you're going to have to cut it from multiple colors of cardstock, which you end up with lots of extras. Well, those are great if you want to layer to make some parts of the house a little bit more dimensional, like the door frame, the doorknob, and then the stonework around the door is all going to be 2 layers. So any of those extra layers that I had laying around, I'm going to use as the base to pop those up and give our house a little bit more character and dimension. The inside of the window pieces, because I wanted it to look like you're looking through the window inside the house and the lights on, those were adhered directly to the card background. At this point, I do think I trimmed down my card background. I started with 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches A2 sized panels. I trimmed all of them down to 4 by 5 1/4, which is going to leave us with a nice white border all the way around the design. I felt like the cards needed a little bit of a frame up, and that's a quick and easy way to achieve that. So just wanted to note that really quick off camera, trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4. And we are assembling the rest of our house. I know it's a lot of little steps. I can't tell you or impress enough upon you how great an embellishment wand, a jewel picker, something like that, tweezers help so much when dealing with these little parts and pieces. I also highly suggest working in one little area at a time. I have a little tray on my desk that I kept some of the pieces in. A lot of the pieces, like the stonework around the door, I'm going to show you here in a second, they didn't really pop out of the cardstock too bad. You can see I've got my pink and red and aqua and limey green. Most of them stayed put, and I left them like that because that was so much easier to figure out what went where. I had kind of dumped all of the speckled egg, that cream, the base color of the mushroom stem. I had stuck those in a dish, and I had to figure that out and kind of do a little puzzle piece to do that first layer that I inlaid. No big deal though, it was pretty easy to figure out. The little spots on the top of the mushrooms, I also layered those up, so there's a base layer inlaid into the mushroom top underneath, and then the gold foil cardstock on top. Gold foil for the trim or the doorway of the house, and the doorknob for a little touch of sophistication for this fun holiday card. Next, we have our Deco Hat Gnome. This is the new addition to the gnome collection. This is the 4th gnome for Simon Says Stamp. There's a girl gnome. I did not use her today. I did try. She just kind of didn't work with the design, and so I ended up not using her. If you guys want to see me do some sort of a card or project with all of the gnomes, can you drop me a note and let me know? Also, I really highly encourage you to drop me a note. Let me know what you want me to see, what you guys want to see me use from the Make Merry release, if I can talk today. Let me know. Let me know what you're looking forward to seeing. Let me know what you want to see a video on. I am planning my videos for the second half of the month, and I want to know what you want to see from this release. So we are building up our Deco Hat Gnome. And I love that Simon provides the background piece for this, so it makes it really easy to assemble, because if you had to put together all these little parts and pieces, it would be such a trick, especially with this crazy hat this guy's got. But that crazy hat is the most fun. If that crazy hat is not your thing, never fear. Simon thought of it all. There is also a solid hat that you can very easily use instead. In fact, on my last card, I'm just going to use the solid hat and not do the crazy design. I did 2 of them today, and I thought 2 was enough for this day. So definitely a super cute little hat design. This first one I made, he's going to have all the colors in his hat, but the base color is going to kind of be that gold to tie it all together. You're going to notice that here in a minute. I also found it was easiest to add shading for the nose and the beard after I adhered them to the panel. I started trying to color them off before I reassembled the gnome, and I think that was a little bit harder. That's how I've done it in the past, and I can't believe I didn't think that assembling it would just be simpler. It's just like coloring inside the lines of any stamped image. So just stay within the die lines with your coloring and you should be fine. Use some warm grays for the beard, just did a little bit of quick flicking and feathering, and then a couple of colors of earth tone for the nose, and that's it. Really quick and easy. I did start adding some shading to his hat, and I really quickly decided I did not want to do that. Not my thing. So I went ahead and quit, but I'm going to go ahead and finish adding all these colors into his hat. We have the first layer, which is aqua and gold. Our second layer, which is green and red. We're going to do aqua and gold again for the next little layer that goes vertically. And then the last layer is horizontal, and that's going to be some reds and pinks just to kind of finish it off with crazy. He has a crazy hat. I thought with all the colors of his mushroom house that it would be really fun to go crazy with his hat and just add lots and lots of color. Isn't he cute? I just think he is so much fun. I love piecing these all together. There's something really satisfying about creating these guys, I think. And I really highly recommend, I think you could start from the top if you wanted to. I personally like starting from the bottom and layering them on that background piece. This would also be a fantastic idea for tags. Because they have that background piece, it's clean on the back. And I think you punch a little hole in them, thread in some string, stamp to from on the back. How adorable would these be as gift tags during the holiday season? I probably could even wrangle some up if you guys want to see them, because I really do think that I probably will be making some anyway. I love the gnomes from Simon Says Stamp. They are one of my favorite dies that Simon has come out with, and I just love that they keep adding to the collection. They have the stamps, and they have the dies, and just all of the good things. There's, of course, the Gnome House stencil, which I used here several months back when that was released. And then there's a gnome stencil that I used probably at this time last year. I'm actually going to link to that video at the end of this one. It's probably one of the all-time favorites from you guys. If you're new here, maybe you didn't know I had another one, just to share you some other ideas for gnome-themed cards. The other thing is this kind of project, I feel, with all these tiny parts and pieces, really calls for liquid adhesive. For me, it's the quickest and easiest way to assemble. And so I love a little Ranger multi-matte medium with a fine tip applicator. Of course, my embellishment wand makes assembling this so much easier. There is our little Deco Hat Gnome all ready to be adhered to our card base. Now I've left plenty of room down here at the bottom of the card. That is where our sentiment is going to go. Let's go ahead and attach our panel to our white top fold card base, and then let's stamp and emboss our sentiments. And I'm going to show you what I did to add a little more interest to the word jingle. All of the sentiments for my cards today are from the brand new Good Cheer stamp set. I believe this one is designed by Kathy. She has a fantastic graphic style. I am always drawn to her stamps, and specifically her sentiments. I absolutely love them. This is a great addition to our holiday stash. So I am stamping the word jingle, which is this great outline. Would be fantastic stamped on white cardstock and colored in. For this card, I didn't really feel like that was going to work. I didn't really want to do a ton of coloring today. So we're just stamping and embossing the sentiment on the Hero Arts Cherry Red cardstock. I love a nice bright white outline on any color of cardstock really, and this is going to look super awesome today. We'll heat emboss and die cut with the coordinating dies. Yes, that's right. This sentiment set has coordinating dies. I love that Simon has been doing this a lot in the last year or so. So fantastic, easy to add to a project. I believe everything in the stamp set comes with a coordinating die. Even the last card I'm creating today, which is kind of stacked words one on top of another, it's in a rectangular box. There's a die for that. Fantastic. I love it. Now, any of the small phrases, those do not have a coordinating die, but never fear. I used my favorite nested banners die set to die cut that into a little strip. And then we're going to pop up these with foam adhesive. But first, that little bit of embellishing to the sentiment that I was talking about, to these letters, I am going to add shading. Yes, it's tone on tone. It probably, I don't know if it translates as well on video. It does add a little bit deeper, darker color there at the bottom of each letter, which I really love. Now, if you get Copic marker on the white embossing, it will change the color of that. The way to get around that, use your blender to move any color off. There was a couple of spaces where I accidentally got some red marker on the white. Does not look great. I don't like that. So I just took the blender and kind of carefully lifted that up very, very lightly. I also used the blender to smooth out any harsh lines where I was blending out that color. It adds just enough, you guys. I don't know. It really just spoke to me. I don't do a whole lot of outline stamping like this and just leave it plain. I usually color it in or ink blend it or whatever it might be, and I didn't here. And so by adding that little bit of color, I just really liked how it turned out. Okay, we're gonna add some foam adhesive squares. You guys know I love my foam adhesive. And pop that up right there, overlapping our Mushroom House and Deco Hat Gnome. It does not take anything away from the scene. In fact, I think it grounds it. And then we're going to pop up all the way phrase with another little piece of foam adhesive right there overlapping the word jingle for jingle all the way. Now comes my last little step, the thing that I always think takes a card from good to great, and that's embellishing. I'm playing around with some embellishments. My favorite little white heart accents from Trinity Stamps and some Lucy's Things. These little matte gold stars. For whatever reason, these matte gold have been my absolute favorite for all of my card making in the last few weeks. We are going to add the heart. I ended up adding it to the chest of my gnome. And then we're going to scatter those stars all throughout the background, some on top of the gnome house. I just kind of want it to look like little stars in that snowy sky. There is our first card all finished. Isn't that so much fun? I love an almost all die cut card, but there is some stamping there. And I don't think, if you knew better, would you think that that background was pattern paper? I just am in love with that Snowflakes background. I hope you guys love it too. All right, for our next background, we're going to be using the pink background that we stamped with the Lawn Fawn Ballet Slippers ink. And we are going to be revisiting some of our past gnomes, the gnome and the Lil Gnome, I guess is what his actually called. Those two paired with our new Deco Hat Gnome are going to make a adorable little trio on our card. I love how they turned out. And remember, if you want, grab the girl gnome. You could replace one of them with her. This is the card I wanted to try to use all four of them, and really I just felt like they didn't fit very well. And I was going to try to smash them all together. Plus, I really like mine in odd numbers, not even. And that would have been 4, not 3. So I opted to leave her out today. But she is another option for creating some fun gnome-themed projects. we are simply mixing and matching all of our gnomes. So the first gnome, he's up there in the top left corner. I have not adhered his hat yet, and that's because the hats that are solid, and that goes for any of the gnomes, because there is a solid hat, remember, for our new Deco Hat Gnome, can actually be stamped. I like a small background stamp design or stencil, polka dots, or a tiny gingham, which is what I'm going to use today, a little stripe, whatever it might be. I think it adds a nice little bit of texture if it's a tone on tone. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of color here. There's a lot of die cutting. So I try to keep the distractions to a minimum, but I love a little tone on tone, and I think it adds a huge difference to his hat, which I'll show you here in a second. I think I did stamp it off camera, but that was just to save some time because I was afraid this video was getting a little too long, and I really wanted to focus on the new products and not previously released or products from other manufacturers. The gingham I'm using, I have used this on another project as well. I absolutely love it, highly recommend it. It's from the Ink Blot shop. It's the micro gingham background, and it is micro. So I have a lot of gingham backgrounds. I have my favorite one from Simon Says Stamp that I use all the time, and it's great for background stamping. And this micro gingham would be great for background stamping too, but I love it for adding some texture to clothing and things like that. So for the gnomes, it works especially well. And we'll get to that here in a bit when I am assembling my gnomes. Now I kept my color schemes for my gnomes. They're not all kind of crazy. Like our first gnome has a red hat and a blue outfit. This guy has green and red. And then our last guy is going to have red and pink. I wanted to have all 4 colors that I'm using in my cards, but I didn't want to kind of do rainbow on all of them. And I kept that crazy hat to the first card. That was a lot of die cutting because it's a lot of die cutting. It's one die, so I have to die cut that one over and over. This only was die cutting twice. I die cut it from green and red and was able to just kind of mix and match the pieces. In fact, if you want to create 2 of the same card, you can just alternate and not have any wasteful pieces, which I did, unfortunately. All of my shading and coloring is going to happen after they are assembled. I've learned my lesson, and I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but I want to mention now. Their noses are one thing that I always do dimensional. So remember in the mushroom house where I had a base layer underneath that I inlaid and then I added a piece on top? That's what we're doing here. I die cut the gnome face twice, and I am layering one nose on top of another because it gives them so much dimension. So I went ahead and finished kind of adding all the parts and pieces for our little gnome off camera. And now we are assembling these guys on our card. Look how cute on that pink background. Again, it looks like pattern paper to me. So thrilled. Keep in mind when you stamp with dye ink, it is going to smooth and flatten out as it dries, which is what you see here. So it looks phenomenal. It doesn't have any of that blotchiness that it has when you first stamp it. Off camera, I also stamped Season's Greetings from the Good Cheer stamp set and From Our Family to Yours, and I die cut that with a nested banner die. Season's Greetings was die cut with that coordinating Good Cheer die, which I absolutely love. And you can see that I have added that hat to our gnome that was stamped with the micro gingham from Ink Blot shop. We're going to add a lot of little stars all over the background for this card as well. Love that little bit of matte gold with the light pink. So pretty, you guys. And then because I can't stop using the little heart accents, I want them in all the colors. I don't know if anyone who is making those or has a company is listening, but I want these in all the colors. Just individual colors so I don't have to dig through them. That's more of a wish than a need, but I love them, and I want them in all these sizes. This is a great one because it has some different sizes in it. Okay, I added some hearts to the hats, some little white highlights for the noses, and we are ready to move on to our third and final card. Now this is the only one I didn't have an idea for to begin with. I stamped all the backgrounds and I thought, well, maybe I'll just, you know, do a big bold sentiment. Well, you guys know me, I'm not that clean and simple. So I went ahead and I did stamp my big bold sentiment, the Be of Good Cheer from the Good Cheer stamp set. And we're going to die cut it with that big rectangle die you can see there on the screen that I said coordinates with this. And we're going to add it to the middle of our panel. But I thought, let's add some peeking gnomes from the sides. That would be cute. And we're going to use our Deco Hat Gnome, but we're not going to really do a deco hat. We're going to do the plain Jane hat stamped with that micro gingham background from Ink Blot Shop. So I'm popping up my panel in the middle of the watermelon, all Snowflakes background that we stamped earlier. And I'm going to just trim off a little bit of this die. I want him to kind of be peeking out sideways, so I'm going to use a pencil to make some little marks. Not high tech at all. I'm taking my scissors and just trimming that off. So then it's going to make it easy for it to appear that he's peeking out from behind without the extra bulk. His outfit is all going to be from some Hero Arts Meadow cardstock. That is the green color I'm using for the majority of my stamping today, or my die cutting, pardon me. And I'm going to assemble his outfit. Now, some of it is going to overlap that area we trimmed off. We're just going to take our scissors and trim that as we're working. But it did kind of help me serve as a guide to know what I needed to get rid of as I'm assembling this. And then, like I mentioned, I had done enough of the inlaying of that deco hat, which is a little bit of work. It's worth it. I love it. But this was my third card of the day, and I decided let's just give him a plain hat with a little bit of stamping. Much quicker and much easier. In fact, I'll tell you guys, I think if I would make these as tags, I probably wouldn't do the deco hat because it's a gift tag and it's going to get pitched. More than likely. I mean, some people keep theirs, I keep mine, but I know not everyone does. And so I think I would probably not take the extra effort. Here's his little hat. Now, I did adhere it and I ripped it off right away because I forgot that I wanted to stamp it. You could stamp both his outfit and the hat. I kind of like one has texture and one doesn't, but that's just me. I like it to not be super matchy-matchy. And then don't forget to add in all of the great texture and color with your Copic markers. So nice little bit of shading for his beard and mustache. The color for his nose, it has 2 layers again, so it pops out a little bit more. And then we're going to just secure him peeking out from behind our little Be of Good Cheer. We're going to do the same thing for the little gnome. That's who I chose to use on the other side. Again, I really wanted to use the girl gnome, but she is a little bit wider. And so I felt like I needed something a little smaller because Be of Good Cheer is a big, bold sentiment. He also is going to get trimmed up so it looks like he's peeking out from behind the signage as well. Then off camera, I stamped and embossed Now and Throughout the Coming Year from the Good Cheer stamp set on black licorice cardstock. And we're going to figure out whether we want to pop that up or place it directly on the background here in a minute. I played around with both. Ultimately, I decided to just adhere it directly to the background. And then we'll add some fun little heart and bellies here. I added some little hearts to the Deco Hat Gnome. And of course, my favorite gold star confetti is going to be scattered throughout this card as well. So 3 really super fun ways to use new products from the Simon Says Stamp Make Merry release. I cannot wait to hear from you guys what your favorite products are from the release. I want to know all the things. Leave me comments. I read them all and I respond to all or as many of them as possible. I try to get to all of them. So I really do want to know, and I make note and keep tallies of what you guys want to see, what you guys have purchased, all of the things. So please, please let me know. Let me know what projects you want to see coming up the end of this month and into November. I cannot wait to hear. And I hope this has inspired you to get cracking on your holiday cards. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And here is a look at all 3 cards together. Aren't those fun? So bright and cheerful. Jingle all the way. Be of good cheer now and throughout the coming year and seasons. Greetings from our home to yours. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Simon Says Stamp Gnomes, stencils, stamps, and dies that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I appreciate it so much. We'll catch you next time.